Is your favorite player washed? Yes, yes, they are. But we are here, and we're going to tell you some of the players that we think are washed by this point in their careers, in the season, whatever it may be. I've got a few players, Elijah's got a few players, and we're going to run them through them and debate lightly about whether or not these players are washed. I have four written down. I know you have like six or seven, and we'll just pick the best from those. If there's any overlapping, then we'll go from there. But I would like to kick things off with a very obvious one, if you will, and talk about the one and only Aaron Rodgers, and talk about...
Yep, the definition of washed, right? Like, past few seasons, that's the guy that came to mind when we brought this up in conversation. Like, the word washed and Aaron Rodgers, like, they're basically an anagram.
Like, it's basically... Drew Brees towards the end of his career is not in the same way, but is Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, we're watching him. We know he's done. We know he's checked out. We know he's not able to keep up with what he needs to, but, you know, he's a great player. The difference is that Drew Brees did not take perks and play football, and Drew Brees did not abandon his team, and Drew Brees stayed loyal to his team until the end, to a fault. It actually ruined the Saints, but I'll talk about that some other time. But the thing that I want to talk about with Aaron Rodgers, week one, he looked on the stat sheet insane. He looked great. He had the 4 touchdowns, no picks. He looked like himself. This week was what the tape in week one showed, but on the stat sheet this time. This week on the stat sheet, he went 18 of 33 for 200 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I don't know the last time he threw 2 interceptions in a game. He's been the epitome of efficiency throughout his career. He's always had those insane touchdown to interception ratios, but now we're not seeing that anymore. And in week one, I did not see him making quality plays. I did not see him making smart plays. I did not see him standing tall in the pocket with any sort of ability to withstand pressure. Anytime pressure was there, it was a throwaway or a sack, and it felt like the only times that he could throw it was when there was a wide open pocket. And it just so happened the Jets defense wasn't able to cause as much havoc as the Seahawks. That's at least what I'm assuming was the difference between weeks 1 and 2. But
yeah, between the two,
for me, it's an easy yes in the circumstance that he is not able to execute the duties that a professional football play caller and quarterback should be able to execute.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because he's been washed for a few years. Like, he obviously hasn't been at his peak MVP performance since his last MVP. As soon after that, with the departure from Green Bay, the immediate Achilles tear, last season with the Jets, it's been a mess for him. And the thing at the front of my mind is, like, I wonder how much longer he'll go, because he does have, career lowest interception percentage of any player ever. I wonder, is he going to take that and fall out of that career best with the later years of his career, because he's dead set on playing these extra years of his career? Like, I think he's washed, but it's, the famous line, a down year for him is career year for other quarterbacks.
I don't know if that's applicable anymore.
As washed as he is, he's better than your average, very bridge quarterback. So I wonder if he is going to just keep being that above average bridge quarterback for a few more years, or if he's going to be like, yeah, this year's enough. Of course, small sample size, two games this season, but I would land on the washed side of things there.
The only reason I lean so more heavily washed is because I had the same exact complaints watching him last year on the Jets. And the fact that he has not improved, and last year I was like, well, he is 40 coming off an Achilles tear. So maybe that's part of why he's not able to move in the pocket as much, and part of why he's so susceptible to pressure. But we're now a full 2 seasons removed from that, or 2 years removed from that, and we're still not seeing him able to move. So I think that was the point in his career where he should have called it quits. I think he should have gone out on the highs of what could have been, and that would have been such a different legacy than he's got now, with
Yeah,
a bad year on the Jets
for sure.
and what I'm assuming is going to be a bad year on the Steelers. But yeah, we can move on to the second if you've got a name you want to bring up.
I do have a name, and it's one right up your wheelhouse. Travis Kelce. Is Travis Kelce washed? I'm gonna let you get up on your soapbox and preach as much Kansas City hate as you want here and now. I'll lay out some of the facts for you. Right, so he peaked in 2020, a great year for him, great year for the Chiefs offense.
Bad year for the rest of the world.
In that year,
can we get a shout out to 2020? Anyways.
With that season, he had 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. He did eclipse the 11 touchdowns with 12 in 2022. He did have a minor deficit on the yardage there, but that was a great prime stretch. He had so many years in a row, 1,000 yards every season for about 6 or 7. And then he just barely misses that 1,000-yard mark, 2023. Last season, it was a rough season for Travis Kelce with, a great tight end season, 823 yards. But when he's the main workhorse of that offense, and you're seeing those numbers dwindle as he's getting up in age, and then we see his play this past game, where he's been dropping balls for a little bit now. He's had the dropsies, and he's dropping them into defenders' hands as they're returning an interception a long ways. I think, it's lining up to him being washed, but now that I got the numbers out of the way, I'll let you preach your hatred.
Yeah, I'm not going to look at this through a Chiefs lens because I feel bad when I look at stuff like this in a biased way. When I'm talking about the Chiefs and we're just normal podcast stuff, I don't mind ragging on them because I really don't like them. But if I'm doing like actual analytics stuff, I'll remove my bias as much as I can. I was not a Travis Kelce fan last season, obviously, but this year, I think throughout his career, he's never really leaned on the athletic aspect of his game. He's always leaned on the mental aspect of being able to find open spots in a defense. He's always been a reliable target, and those are his main two things, is I can get open no matter what, and I will catch the ball. And if you're a tight end, you got to do 4 things. Be athletic, block, get open, and catch the ball. I mean, other things for sure, but those are like 4 main things. He already wasn't doing 2 of those. He was not a great blocker, never was in his career. He was okay, but never amazing. Always more of a receiver, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He was never a huge athlete. Again, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still be great, as he proved, by just finding open spots and catching the ball and maybe getting upfield a little bit. But when you remove a third aspect of the tight end experience, if all you are able to do is find open spots, what do you add to the team? You're not a threat to catch the ball because you're dropping the passes all the time. You're not a threat after the catch because you're not athletic, you never were. And you're not a threat in the run game, so if people see you on the field, they're worried about the pass more than they are about the run. So I'm not saying that he's like now one of the bottom tight ends in the league. Like, he's still pretty good. Even him with the dropsies is better than most tight ends. But I do think that
a down year for him.
Shut up. I do think that we are at a point now where we can have a legitimate, unbiased conversation saying that he's washed, rather than my rant that I cut out last year where I said that he's not a top tight end in the NFL. So there's me exposing myself a little bit there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you really honed in on the fact that third aspect is being dropped. We had him have his with his catch issues last season, and that was its own other thing. And I went and I found the numbers for that. So out of all 103 tight ends last season, he ranked 54th in catch percentage. All right, middle of the road. It's nothing, it's not great. It's not the Kelce experience, but it's average. But so far this season, out of 57 eligible tight ends, he is 48th in catch percentage. Now, small sample size. We've got 2 games. How many tight ends are being targeted? And, what's the circumstances in which they're dropping it? But Travis Kelce, seeing him at the bottom of any of these stats, no matter the sample size, would have in the past been like, oh man, he must have had a really bad week 1 game. But he hasn't had inexplicably bad games. He's had average games for what he's been doing the past couple of years. So when he's the workhorse of the offense and it is looking this rough and his prime was so great, at this point in time, unless he really turns it around, because it feels like he's coming out of the gates better than he did last season. However, he's still dropping passes. And so that leads me again into that leaning of the washed. Now, he comes around and he catches every single ball for the rest of the year. That's fantastic, and I will rescind that washed. But at the moment, this has been a pattern that's established, and it's not a great one.
The other thing that I will mention about that one aspect of his game, the finding open spots, is the Xavier Worthy play, where he ran into Xavier Worthy and dislocated his shoulder. It, to me at least, seemed like it was a rub route, which I'm not saying that it's a Chiefs thing that they're running a rub route. Obviously, Chiefs are cheaters or anything. I'm not saying that. Every team does it. I'm just saying that when you're running a rub route and you can't do it properly and it leads to injuring your teammate, that fourth aspect is starting to get a little shaky too. So it's like, all right, drop issues, sure, you can still be a middle of the road catch percentage tight end. And for tight ends, that's not great because by the end of the season, you've got a bunch of blocking tight ends that have targets and they don't have the best hands, period. So being a middle of the road catching tight end when that's your main thing is like not great. But either way, it's really starting to look like he's declining because it's piling on top as we move forward rather than, something that we're just seeing now is new. And he's all of a sudden he's coming off his highs. But I think that's enough Kelce talk, I would say he's washed. You're saying he's getting towards washed. I think we can meet in the middle and say that he's
in the hamper right now. He's next in queue and about to
somebody's grabbing him out of the hamper as we speak, and he's got to bite that hand if he wants to not be called washed. But we can move on to my second, a name that is not old, a name that is actually quite young, and that is Bryce Young.
It is quite young. It does, in fact, contain young in the name.
Yes. So when my criteria for this, my little notes here, from the late season stretch last year, where he had us believing that he might be great, or not great, but he might be better to now.
Franchise, at bare minimum.
Yeah.
And he could have been the future. From
what I have seen, it's not his fault, man. It's not his fault. But it is a lot of dropped passes. Xavier Legette is looking like one of the worst receivers in football, unfortunately. But I think my opinion on this, I wanted to discuss this because of how the end of last season went to how the beginning of this season is going for the Panthers. So I wanted to discuss it. But my stance on it is he's also in the hamper, but he's got some time because Jalen Coker needs to come back. Cokeheads unite. We need to get our boy back. And he needs to have some more solid targets.
Right in the nose.
Tet McMillan has to mesh more with the offense, and that's just going to come with time. And Legette needs to get off the field. So when all of that happens, then we can take a serious look on if it's his fault or not. Right now, I don't think he's doing enough to elevate, but I don't think it's fully his fault.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Bryce Young because I have that other name, Xavier Legette, on my list. Now, the caveat for my Legette being on the list was like, well, was he ever really that great to begin with? With a middled rookie year. But this year is like it's bad.
It's
and
bad.
So when
worst in
a
the
guy,
league, legitimately worst in the league.
Yes, 0.2 yards per route run. He's got 4 receptions, 8 yards, and he's getting targets. He's got 15 targets on the year. And when you're looking at that, and it's just so abysmal that it's that effect. You have this guy who you were hoping to see improve heading into the year with more offensive weapons, and yet now the offensive weapons are not actually improving. Like Legette is having his regression, whereas he could have had a way better and bigger year. No Thielen, so he could have gotten a bigger workload. Tet McMillan opposite him, and he's not falling into that role. So I feel, due to the fact that I have Legette on my list, I can't say that Bryce Young is washed on your list.
So we
because
share that,
I would, I would lean heavily into Xavier Legette. Like he's gotta focus in and actually improve on a season where he should be improving, and not regress as heavily as he is. Meanwhile, Bryce Young has the regression happening around him, not so much due to his individual mistakes, decision making, and stats.
Yeah.
So that was a twofer. That was two birds, one stone.
I'll let you lead into another one, and we'll see if I've got one to match you with here, because I led into that one, and then you were able to piggyback. So we'll let you take off with I guess it'll be fifth one.
Yeah. Man, there's one name that it'll be real quick. Yes, no. But I saw the numbers on him this year, and I was like, I gotta offer this up. Is AJ Brown?
No.
Is AJ Brown approaching being washed?
Hell no. It's the Eagles' offense.
Yeah, they've had a weird couple of games where they're not really producing as much as they usually do, and they're still winning these games because they're so handily able to just run the clock and run the ball.
Yeah,
manage possessions. You don't need AJ Brown to get these huge targets, deep shots.
If you can keep him from having a heavy workload until you need him to later in the season into the playoffs, if you're winning games, even if it's by 5 points a game, if you're winning by one score every game, but you're winning, why would you risk injury or tire or
fatigue?
Fatigue, yeah. Exactly. Thank you. On some of your best players. Why would you give Saquon the ball 30 times a game if you don't need to? Why would you pass the ball to AJ and Devontae Smith, 10 times each every game if you don't need to? And I think ultimately that's where I stand is I hope he continues to have a down year for the Eagles' sake, because if that's the case, if they're still winning and he's not producing as much, come playoff time, he's going to get the ball 10 times a game and he's going to explode 200 yards in the playoffs, and that's going to be the reason they win. But it's going to be something that teams aren't preparing for because he hasn't been part of the game plan all year. Obviously, I'm speaking in hyperbole. We're in week 2. I expect to see him enter the game plan a little bit more as we go. But yeah, I think that he's just not needed at the moment more than he is washed.
Yeah. And I just wanted to tee up at least one easy not washed in this conversation where we have been leaning heavily onto that washed. And then who do you got?
I've got one more that I really want to talk about, and then we can see if we want to do any more after that. I've got the Dolphins, but like everywhere. Like
everything.
I'm talking not just team, like not just Dolphins O-line, not just Tua, not just Tyreek, not just the defense, but coaching wise. Mike McDaniel. Hang him up, buddy. Like, you're not able to orchestrate this offense. You're getting yards because you're dumping the ball off to Devon Achane. You know who could draw up plays to dump off the ball to Devon Achane? This guy. I could do it. Swing pass to Achane, get a couple receivers out there blocking. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, you're on the bench. Y'all can't block as well as some of these bigger receivers do. Give me Mac Hollins. Give me some of these bigger, bulkier receivers. Give me Gabe Davis. They're deep threats, They can get down the field, they can catch the ball deep, but they're also bigger than Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, and they can block. So if we're gonna just go full send, offense is Devon Achane now, we're passing him the ball 20 times a game, and we're handing the ball off to him 10 times a game, and he is our offense. Why not fully build it around him? But that's a complete tangent that I actually didn't have anything written down for. I just kind of felt a spark and went with it. So, input, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an egregious down turn for them. And it's like, how much of it can be pure offense? How much of it can be pure defense? I would say it's kind of heavily on the defense for not being able to, stop a damn thing. But then you also have the flip side of the offense not really being able to get anything going, and then being forced into these situations because now their defense isn't that good. I think as a whole, like, this is an enigma because they have obviously the brains. We've seen the things McDaniel can do, and Tua has always been like the guy. He completes the pass and he gets it to the playmakers, and that's the way the offense runs. But it's not running as well. He's not getting it to them as well. The offensive line isn't holding up as well. I'd agree. The Dolphins are washed right now. Like it's about 6 more games of this away from firings occurring and just full regime rebuild. Shift. Yeah. Because it's been years of Tua. We've seen Tua. We know what Tua is. Despite him missing time with an injury, we're still able to know what Tua is. And at the moment, he needs a lot of stuff around him. And if one aspect of the things around him isn't good and it's the offensive line, then therefore the things you have around him don't matter.
Yeah.
You need to put someone in there that can, make the most of a situation, recognize pressure and avoid it, while also, adding a little bit younger talent because, Tyreek Hill is going to be joining that washed category possibly.
Yeah.
If no one can get him the ball. But to end things off, you went a full team. You went large scale there. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do something similar. Will we see the Bengals rushing attack reach a level that it can post Joe Mixon? Is the rushing attack of the Bengals washed?
Yeah, my take on this, I've got two sides to the take. Early season Bengals always suck. Documented fact. But now that Joe Burrow's out, it begs the question, like, will that affect things too much? Jake Browning came in, won the game. He's pretty good backup. But the second part, I never believed in Chase Brown. I never did. I didn't vocally say it. Thank goodness.
You didn't fall into that either. Thank God.
No, I
did not either. But everyone was on that.
I could not see the hype. I couldn't get it. Like, is he part of a high-scoring offense that needs points scored? Yes. But are there 3 receivers that beg for touches? I guess not 3 anymore. But are there 2 receivers who beg for touches way more than Chase Brown? Yes, absolutely. He does not have the Joe Mixon level talent. He does not have... I don't even think he has starting running back talent. I'm not going to lie. Like, maybe it's a bit harsh, but I don't think he's a quality running back in the league. And I could not stand hearing everybody be like, oh, Chase Brown's the next big thing at running back, and draft him in fantasy. He's going to be great. Like, drafting a running back that is on a high-scoring offense is not a winning formula unless the running back is part of the reason that offense is high-scoring, and he's not.
Yeah. It's a heavy passing offense. You're coming into a year after the Bengals had a really rough defensive performance last season. What happens when you're having your defense not do great? Well, you often tend to pass the ball because you're down in the game and, clock's running. You can't run the ball because you don't want to eat up the clock. Why at all does that feed into a Chase Brown narrative that he's going to be, being so productive? I don't understand. Now, as you stated, the group isn't as talented without Joe Mixon since his departure, and the offensive line isn't that good. You're gonna slam that washed on your hardcore, right?
Yeah.
Right into the hamper? Yeah. Okay. Hook shot into the hamper, or
they're
straight
going
into the washing
dryer.
machine.
Actually,
yeah,
they're going into the dryer now. Like, they're beyond washed. But that I believe,
and they've got that little bit of mildew, like that.
Yeah, they got left in the washing machine for too long after the cycle was over.
A little too long.
Yeah. Anyways, that I believe will wrap up this short segment. Not that short, but this segment video. Let us know if you disagree with us. If you're a Chase Brown believer, let us know why. I genuinely haven't heard a take of why other than the fact that he's on the Bengals. So if you've got some advanced analytics or anything to back it up, please drop it in the comments below. But other than that, check out the full podcast dropping tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We thank you for supporting the individual little segments, and we hope that you stick around and support the podcast.